Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So that's the song that I would have loved to have played today in a very honest way. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that there is a cruel and vicious irony in that song. And by the way, I didn't play it well, so I should tell you. I tried to play We Are the Champions by Queen, Freddie Mercury. Anyways, I'll explain all this in a minute. Welcome. We are studentloanjustice.org. We are the oldest, largest, and pretty much only group of significant size actually fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. I'm just going to get right into it, folks. Sorry for the late start. If you have any questions or comments and you're watching me on Facebook or Twitter, the big news today is the fact that President Biden finally, after being in office for 1.5 or more years, finally announced a loan cancellation such as what he ran on and that we voted him into office on. So initially, Joe Biden was saying he was going to cancel loans, eliminate student loans for people who earn less than $125,000 a year with public college. But all that stuff's out the window. So I'm just going to get right into it, folks. And bear with me while I get the lighting right here. But I'm just going to read you the bullet points of what we did here from the Biden administration today. And we will do a very critical analysis of it. So number one, the Biden administration announced a across-the-board $10,000 loan cancellation for people earning less than $125,000 a year, and an across-the-board up to $10,000, by the way, for that last thing. Also up to $20,000 for people who received the Pell Grant. So for those of you out there maybe new to the group, maybe you don't know much about student loans, etc., and who can blame you? That sounds pretty good, right? Like if you own $30,000, you just subtracted $10,000 from your debt, and you're like, cool, I owed 30, now I owe 20. Or maybe if you went to probably a public college and you got the Pell Grant, you're probably saying, wow, 30 minus 20, that's 10 grand. Wow. And who could blame you for doing that? As probably 90% of all student borrowers in the country are doing here this afternoon. That is the math that they are doing. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you, please, 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 don't be fooled. This announcement, and we've been doing this for 17 years, guys, 17 years. We have seen all the tricks and the traps. And I have to say that today's announcement from the Department of Education is among the least trustworthy, most disingenuous documents that I have seen come from the Department of Education in all the years that we've been doing this. I hate to rain on people's parade. And, first of all, let me just say, the concept of canceling student loans by executive order started with this group. We were interviewed in the very first media article that I can find on the concept of student loan cancellation by executive order. Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, and others who had jumped onto that bandwagon didn't do so until 6 months after we started the petition at change.org calling on the then President Trump to cancel student loans by executive order. So just the fact that we got an announcement from a sitting president today saying that he was going to cancel loans by executive order, that actually right there is something meaningful. So I guess we do have some reason to be very happy to celebrate and sort of pat ourselves on the back for this announcement. It's, that's true. And that there's nothing that you can say about that. Certainly Trump did not even touch this topic. Now here we have Biden actually saying that he's going to do what we have been calling on him to do since August 2019, even before the pandemic. So that in itself is something to be celebrated, I suppose. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you what we saw here today is in fact, it is essentially the exact trick that we were afraid of. As I said, we've been doing this for 17 years, ladies and gentlemen, and we will not be fooled. First of all, up to $10,000 could mean anything. Up to $20,000 can mean anything. You know, they could say, oh, we're going to forgive $10,000 if you earned zero. If you earn between 1 penny and, 20,000, we're going to forgive 8,000. If you earn between, $60,000 and $80,000, which I think probably most people are right in that range, you get like $3,000. Who knows what it will be. Also, there will be an application process. Key passage in this thing today, and I'm reading this verbatim, I believe. The department will be announcing further details on how borrowers can claim this relief in the weeks ahead. What does that even mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means we're going to do whatever we want, and we'll roll out whatever application process we determine to want to do whenever we want. But vote for Democrats. That's basically, and we're a fiercely nonpartisan group, by the way, guys. If you're Republican, if you're a Democrat, you're very welcome on this group. We are fiercely nonpartisan. We pretty much hate both parties. We are very cynical. We tell the truth as best as we can see it, and we analyze the facts. And we care only about student loan justice, and that will always be true. And that's still true today. So this announcement today was massively ambiguous. Up to $10,000 could mean zero. Up to $20,000, up to $1 gajillion could mean zero. And many years of observing the Department of Education informs us that if there's any way they cannot cancel loans, that is a channel they will exploit to the hilt. And all the evidence that we have to point to, ladies and gentlemen, the income contingent repayment program, that's a loan cancellation program, public service loan forgiveness, income-based repayment, income pay as you earn, revised pay as you earn. While the verdict's still out for some of those programs, the verdict is in for like ICR, for example, a rejection rate of 99.99, I think 9% for ICR. For public service loan forgiveness, but for the most revised thing, it was a 99% disqualification rate. Now that has maybe gone up a bit now that they're actually canceling loans after much consternation and protest and teachers unions weighing in on the topic. If you look at the income-based repayment program, 30% of those things are rejected every year. That may not sound like a lot, but statistically, that directly leads to the result that statistically, less than 1% of the people currently in income-based repayment, IBR, will make it through. So all available evidence that we have suggests that this thing that they rolled out today will come to essentially the same thing, where very few people actually get their loans canceled. And those who do will probably get far less than they were hoping for. And so, as I said, we're a nonpartisan group, but we are very politically aware on this group. So the political cynic in me says, yes, this is a shameless election year ploy. And it is. I mean, come on. It just obviously is. And I hope that you will read that announcement for yourself. Look up and down on this group. You can see the actual Department of Education announcement for yourself. Read it very critically. Read it with a critical eye, and you will see all the things that I saw. And if you knew what I knew, you would say, oh no, this is just another one of those tricks. And that is exactly what it looks like. So, ladies and gentlemen, this leads to the very direct conclusion of what I say every freaking night on these live streams. This only highlights how freaking important it is for us, the people, the borrowers, to get the constitutionally enshrined right of bankruptcy returned to us. We have got to get the threat of bankruptcy back on our side, ladies and gentlemen. If this cancellation that they just rolled out is to be meaningful at all, it's only going to be meaningful when and if the threat of bankruptcy is returned to us, the people. And as a political matter, the Democrats had better get this done. Democrats and Republicans. This is a nonpartisan issue. Congress needs to get bankruptcy returned to us before the end of the year is the deadline. But as a political thing, Congress needs to pass this before early voting begins in October. That gives us 1 month, guys. That gives us the month of September to get the bill through the Senate, to get a companion bill through the House, reconciliation, signed by the president. Now, we've seen them pass bills quickly, particularly in the past 6 months. I think, they can pass bills quickly when they want to. And ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you, we've got to get bankruptcy back. I'm going to go to your comments because I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about the announcement today, and I'm very curious to hear what you think. So let me just do that. Looking on Facebook now, and if I don't get to all your comments, let me just apologize in advance. And by the way, I want to find something good to say about the Democrats in a way, because honestly, what did Trump do? And what are all the Republicans saying now? The Republicans are saying, no cancellation, no cancellation. I guess the best thing I can say is that the rhetoric is good, right? Just the fact that we have now a president who stood up and he said, I will do exactly what we asked him to do, but he's not going to do it. It's completely unbelievable, and you shouldn't be fooled. But, where would we be with the Republicans? So think to yourself, I'm not telling people, I will not endorse the Democratic Party based on this sort of ambiguous election year 11th hour ploy that they've done here tonight. But I will, give them some, and you can make your own decision. We don't like to tell people how to vote. Vote for Dems, don't vote for Ds, or vote for Ds, don't vote for Rs, that sort of thing. We're not going to do that, guys. We tell the truth, and you can take that truth and you can make your own decisions. But the way the Republicans have handled this whole thing has just been despicable, absolutely despicable. So it's kind of like a good cop, bad cop thing where the Republicans wag their, no cancellations, not robbing from the working man, and you're giving it to these well-to-do, elitist, liberal graduate students. It's complete nonsense. The way this issue has been partisanized is just disgusting. We've been blowing up on the media lately here, guys, by the way, just as while I'm loading your comments, let me just say I've done a partisanized. Just disgusting. We are kicking ass right now as an organization. We've been featured in Wisconsin and Indiana and Los Angeles in the past 2 days. We're going to be on national television on Saturday. I'll talk about that later when we get closer to it. I've been overwhelmed by interviews today. We have multiple interview requests up and down on this group in places like Indiana, Chicago, other places. If you live in Illinois, you live in Indiana, and I think a couple other places, look up and down on our group for the interview request. And if you want to have your comment on what this loan cancellation announcement, it's not loan cancellation, guys. Remember, not $1 in loans has been canceled yet. Remember that. But whatever your initial reactions are, if you want to get them out, then, and you live in Illinois or Chicago, then do that. We have other press requests too. It's frankly been a very busy day. Okay, so when are my comments going to load? I don't see them yet, but they're coming. Sorry for my slow computer. Let me just do one more refresh here so that we get it right. And let me turn off my TV to save some bandwidth, and maybe that will load quicker. Okay, here we go. Ton of comments. Joanna, Doug, Britt's with us. Hey, Doug, I don't know if you saw the thing about Indiana, but yeah. When are my comments going to load? Hopefully you talked to that reporter in Indiana. Hey, Britt Dahl says, Britt in Wisconsin, who was key in getting our news program in Wisconsin done today. Very strong interview, quite surprisingly. WXOW, I think it is, in La Crosse, Wisconsin this afternoon. What will we do next? Because this is horse shit. And I can't believe Senator Warren is out here touting how great this is. We're not popping any champagnes, guys. I hope you are pleased and proud that this group was the thought leadership that pushed the first domino that made this whole thing happen. This is not a day to celebrate, guys. We don't trust these politicians further than we can bowl them. And honestly, I don't think we'll know for a year or more how many people actually get their loans canceled through this program. The claim from the White House is $300 billion. That's nonsense. As I said, if history is any guide, it's going to be far, 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 far less than that. It could be 3 billion. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if it was 3 billion, but anyways, we'll see. But to your question, Britt, what we do is we fight for bankruptcy. I'm telling you guys, the trick that the bad guys have been wanting to foist on us forever is doing a fake, inconsequential loan cancellation as a cheap substitute for the bankruptcy protections, the threat of bankruptcy that should have never been taken away in the first place. When we get the threat of bankruptcy back, Biden or whoever is going to have to cancel loans broadly, meaningfully, deeply, hopefully, and probably without many or maybe even anyone actually having to file for bankruptcy. It's just the threat of bankruptcy that remains so important, guys. And if you forget everything I say tonight, remember this battle is not over. It's not time to pop any champagne corks. It's not time to go back to bed and forget about student loans for a while. No. We have a month, for all intents and purposes, to push bankruptcy S2598 through so that we can actually get meaningful, real student loan cancellation. That's what we need to do, guys. It's so freaking important. Paula Schultz says this 10K is not nearly enough. The elephant in the room that I didn't even mention, yeah, even if it is 10K, even if it's 20K, that is absolutely not going to help the people, particularly some of the older people on this group, such as myself and others, who owe way more than $10,000, who owe in the hundreds and hundreds, maybe even $250,000 or more into this disgusting, catastrophically failed loan scam. And I don't know your situation, Paula, but I think you speak for a lot of people when you say that. Paula, and by the way, they are going to now turn the loans back on January 1st. So, and you're going to be paying back on your loans well before you get any kind of loan cancellation. So there's that as well. Paula says it only serves to give the bankers cash flow. They want that lending system turned back on, guys. That's what they want. Joanna Kearns agrees with Britt. Brian Landis says, after a 60-minute segment with military, those 6 got relief, increasing millions approved here, 26 to 32. Yeah, public service loan forgiveness, the number of people who actually got it went from 26 to 32, which included the 6 GAG attorneys that were profiled on 60 Minutes. And by the way, guys, this is kind of a historic thing. We were featured on 60 Minutes in the very first big news thing ever to be broadcast about the student loan program. Top story on 60 Minutes in May 2006. And I might add, that 60 Minutes episode was Elizabeth Warren's very first big splash in the national spotlight. And here we are today. Elizabeth Warren is touting this as a major victory. Guys, I'm sorry. We're thrilled. Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept that we put out there for student loan cancellation by executive order. But we are very not thrilled with how her and Chuck Schumer slapped a $50,000 upper limit cap on things. And quite frankly, how they politicized it. You know, they really gave the Department of Education all the bureaucratic tools, tricks, and traps that they need to essentially bureaucratize this loan cancellation announcement that we heard today to death, which is what they do. That's what they've always done. And there's no good reason to believe they will do anything but this same thing going forward. Paula says, we still do not have any reforms or protections and not bankruptcy, so we are still indentured. Very true, Paula. Hey, Michael Chaney's with us. So I'm going to kind of blow through some of these comments. Some of them are just kind of short and pithy and I don't think you really meant for me to read them on air. So Paula says, so to prove that you have a Pell Grant, that's true. You know, records are so old, lost, missing, long gone for so many people. How are you going to prove that you had a Pell Grant? Like, do you really think the federal government knows if you got a Pell Grant back in 1985? I doubt it. So there's going to be all manner of ways that they will bureaucratize this to death, let it get lost in the paperwork. This is not clean. This is not quick. And as I said, guys, if history is any judge, it'll come to mean almost nothing for almost everyone. So we applaud Democrats like Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer. We applaud Biden for at least saying the words, I'm going to cancel loans by executive order. But guys, you know, the devil's in the details. And one other very important point in the announcement, and I hope you will read it critically, in the announcement today, they were very, they made it efforts to point out that they are not doing this because the Higher Education Act gives the Secretary of Education and President unfettered authority to broadly cancel loans. No. They said, we just want you to know we're not doing this because of that. We're doing this because of the CARES Act that Congress passed within the past 2 years that gives the president emergency authority to cancel loans. And that is, you know, the fact that they were quick to point that out really illustrates the swamp thought that went into this cancellation announcement today, guys. Aaron Root says the shilled econo-babble pundits are doubling down. Yeah, you know, Aaron, the only thing that I'm less impressed with right now than the Democrats is the freaking Republicans. Those people, they are trying as hard as possible to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. This big government lending scam is failed. It is feeding the colleges. Some would say these socialistic colleges. It is wrecking the red states, and no conservative should ever say good things or defend or support this catastrophically ridiculous big government lending scam. That's not conservative. That's the opposite of conservative. A true conservative would be calling, quite frankly, for what we're calling for, which is cancel all of the loans, end the lending program, no new loans going forward, no more. And replace this lending scam with something that's fair. That's what any true conservative would say, or maybe just get the government out of the lending or out of the funding college business completely. That's what a true conservative would say. The people calling themselves conservatives are not saying that. They're wagging their finger at us, the borrowers. They're telling lies, saying that we are these elitist, well-to-do, high-earning individuals, which is just absolutely and provably false. They're saying that this is going to cause inflation, which is absolutely provably false. And they are disgusting, and they are shoving our noses. And when I say we, I don't mean a bunch of Democrats. I mean 42 million, half and half Democratic, Republican / independent voters who, if we really wanted to, if you include private loans and cosigners, that's like 57 million people. That's pretty much enough people to elect a president outright. And 85% of us were distressed and are distressed before the pandemic. So if 85% of us were distressed on our student loans before the pandemic, what do you think it is now? It's got to be 90% at least. So the Republicans are alienating their own base, which is us. They're trying to make us feel bad. They're fighting for the federal government. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. But, you know, politically, as this is going to play out, my guess, and we are the pioneers. We are sort of a little clique of people who actually know the important truths about the student loan system. My guess is that 80% of most student loan borrowers, they don't know much more than what they see in the headlines. And so this will probably play pretty well with them. I think the Democrats are going to do pretty well with this, but I don't know, guys. I think so. I think people are, they shouldn't be, put it that way. And will this be enough to overcome the massive headwinds that the Democrats had going into the midterms? No, I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be nearly enough. If you are a political pundit working for one party or the other, you should listen to what I'm about to say. If the Democrats actually want to win in November, in order to actually gain out, certainly my trust, certainly everybody on our group's trust, they will at a minimum return bankruptcy. And I mean Congress totally, not just Democrats, but Congress. They will return bankruptcy protections to these loans. And if I were a Democratic strategist, I'd say, okay, return bankruptcy and then say you're going to monitor the situation for a few months. And then maybe you'll do cancellation after that, depending on how things go. That would be the way, if I was a Democrat, that's what I would do if I wanted to win the November elections. Not just not lose too much, but actually retain power of the House and the Senate. If I were a Republican, I would quit talking to the swamp creatures that are spinning the media, and I would take a whole fresh look at this problem, and I would start calling this big government monstrosity what it is. Quit demonizing the borrowers who did nothing more than get wrecked by this fucking federal disaster, pardon my French, and start speaking to their problems rather than trying to blame this on liberals. That's nonsense. This is not D's versus R's. This is not liberal versus conservative. This is a massive, nonpartisan American problem. And as soon as you get that through your fucking skull, pardon my French, you asshole Republicans, maybe you'll have a chance in November. But as it stands now, it's hard to say. The Republicans may be right that they have this political headwind and that they're going to recapture the House and the Senate. Maybe they're right. But if there's any way for them to lose, they are doing everything possible to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in November. And they fuck around with us student loan borrowers at their great, great peril. Pardon my French. So yeah, we're going to get that, guys. 90% of all the media that we see right now is going to be anti-us. And this is a very important point. You know what the difference is between PPP loans and student loans? Those PPP loans made the financial services industry a ton of money. Like all those PPP loans had to go through banks and they all made fees. They all love PPP loans. You didn't hear a peep bad about PPP loans. You didn't. Canceling student loans, that doesn't make anybody, no banks, it doesn't make anybody in Washington, D.C. any money. Now, regardless of the fact that these PPP loans all required money to be drawn from the Treasury, injected into the economy, which actually does create inflation, and all added to the national debt, canceling student loans requires not one dime from the Treasury, injects not one penny into the economy, thus will not cause inflation, and requires zero to be added to the national debt. Those are key differences between PPP loans and student loans. It is just disgusting how the media has just turned on us, whereas they were shameless cheerleaders for PPP loans. We got this, guys. Don't forget that. No matter what happens in Washington, D.C., this lending system has failed. Almost nobody is paying right now. Very few people will resume paying come January 1st. Even before the pandemic, 60% of everyone, that's nearly 2/3 of all borrowers, were not paying. This lending system is a dead man walking, guys. And I hope that you see the importance in us getting our bankruptcy rights back. Because remember, guys, as soon as bankruptcy is returned, it'll be a very direct path between the threat of bankruptcy being back on our side and the swamp creatures in Washington, D.C. realizing, oh, they've got to cancel student loans broadly, meaningfully, deeply, maybe even totally. So Lori, Demetria says, both parties, I'm sick of them. Lori says, nothing gives me any hope that those of us with pre-2009 loans are even eligible. Great point, Laura. That's something I haven't mentioned. If you have the older style FFELP loans, you're still screwed. You were screwed before the pandemic. You were screwed during the pandemic. You're screwed even now today. The president cannot cancel FFELP loans by executive order. He cannot do it. You can, and we don't give any strong advice here, you can convert your FFELP loans into being directly owned loans a number of ways. You can consolidate, you can default and demand that your loans be transferred directly to the Department of Education. But there are no clean solutions for you. The cleanest solution for people like you, Laura, and by the way, I had FFELP loans. And by the way, my defaulted FFELP loans have been transferred to the Department of Education. So my loans technically can be canceled by executive order. The best thing going for FFELP loans borrowers, Laura, is the threat of bankruptcy. That helps everyone with federally owned or guaranteed student loans. Everybody out there with private student loans, you're screwed. You've always been screwed. You're screwed today. Even our bankruptcy bill will not help you. You need to fight for a bill called HR 4907, but the chances of that passing between now and the end of the year are almost non-existent. So if you have private loans, you better start fighting for yourself because you are absolutely screwed. If I see people with private loans, truly, wholly private loans, fighting, then, we will help, but it's got to start with you. Michael Cheney says they want us in a debtor's prison. They will do nothing for us. This stuff does not happen in a vacuum. That's what they would love to do. I agreed, Michael, but this stuff does not happen in a vacuum. Look how far we've gotten, guys, on this group. We were a lone voice in the wilderness calling on the president to cancel loans by executive order back in March 2019 back in August 2019, and then with our petition in March 2020. And look how far we've come, guys. I mean, seriously, I'm very happy, despite everything that I've said about 90% of this broadcast. I am thrilled that we at least got the president to say the right thing today. Getting them to actually do the right thing is a different matter. But look how far we've come, guys. This all started with us, and we're a huge part of the reason that we're here where we are today. So you need to help us. This is your fight. These are your loans. Your livelihood hangs in the balance here. So what we do between now and October, by the end of the year, but realistically October, what we do on this group, we are the pioneers. You cannot unhear that. What we do is going to tell this tale, guys. It's going to. So if ever you were going to help us fight, now would be the time. I think we've proven ourselves on this group. I can't speak for any of the other nonsense groups out there claiming to be fighting for loan cancellation. I suspect that there's going to be a ton of groups, just like Elizabeth Warren today, saying, yeah, victory. Look what we got done. Look what we got done. We need more, but victory. Come on, guys. That's bullshit. That's nonsense. This is not a victory. It'll be a victory when we say it's a victory, and we won't say it's a victory until it's actually a victory. And that starts with getting bankruptcy back. So it's not going to get easier, guys. It's our struggle gets laser hot. Our struggle becomes white hot lightning important from now until hopefully no longer than this next month, the month of September. Hopefully we'll get this done by October 1st. Greg Reedy says they haven't fully qualified this, perhaps implied, but no private loans are going to be considered. Right? No, you're screwed, Greg. If you have private loans, next congressional session, who knows? Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're still around, I hope we're not, but if we are, we will fight for the returning of bankruptcy protections to fully private loans. But our bill right now, I don't even care about next congressional session, Greg. I care about this session. I care about S2598 right now, which is in a perfect position to be passed right now. It's bipartisan. It's got Republicans on the bill. It's got Democrats on the bill. This bill returns bankruptcy to federal student loans that are more than 10 years old. This is the only bill that I care about right now. And quite frankly, unless you have fully private loans, if you have federal loans of any kind, 90% of us do, you better be fighting for S2598. And you better be telling everyone you know with student loans about us, about this group, more importantly, about our bill, about S2598, and why they need to be fighting for it. And they should not be bamboozled, baffled, and fooled and distracted by this loan cancellation gimmick that we saw here today. Doug says, I know this is a trick, but nothing said about those partners filing jointly. That's a good question. There's so many ambiguities with today's announcement, Doug. You can read almost anything you want into it. But the Department of Education, they love doing whatever they want. And that is why read this thing for yourself with a critical eye. There is all sorts of weasel room in there for them. Ann Cooper says, maybe we wait and see if bankruptcy protection passes S2598 before we decide who we vote for. I couldn't agree with you more, Ann. If the Democrats pass S2598, we will give credit where it is due. Frankly, I think we're going to see a lot of Republicans on that bill. We will be thanking people profusely. Senator Dick Durbin being foremost among them, but also people like John Cornyn and Josh Hawley. So we'll just have to see when the bill passes, who voted for it, who didn't, and we will dole out credit as credit is due. Brian Landis says Shake Shack didn't need the COVID millions. Don't get me started on PPP loans, Brian. I could go on for a long time. The wealthiest 20% of earners got the vast majority of those PPP loans. The large majority of student loans went and are currently owned by the bottom 80% of earners. So don't believe any of the bullshit you see about the media, what the media says. Derek says, I really can't vote for anyone now except for Kyle Parrish for Congress in North Carolina 5. Right now, I could vote for Dick Durbin. I could vote for Josh Hawley. I could vote for John Cornyn. Pretty short list. I could maybe vote for people like John Katko. But, even like Jerry Nadler, David Cicilline, the people who sponsored our bill last session, they are dragging their feet this session. So I could not endorse, we as a group could not endorse those people as it is today now. Remember, guys, we are the largest untethered voting bloc in U.S. history. The Democrats and the Republicans screw us at their great, great, great peril. We're way smarter than we were in 2006 when we first started this group. We will not be fooled. Maybe the other groups love to be fooled, and quite frankly, some of the other groups are fake. Some of the other groups are frankly our opposition. Some of the other groups are fighting behind the scenes against bankruptcy, like studentdebtcrisis.org. That's a very dangerous, poisonous, fake group. But don't get me started. So this is what I'm telling you tonight is the truth, guys. And I hope that the veracity of words coming out of my mouth, you're sort of catching the fact that we know what we're talking about and we tell the truth. And you can believe everything that we say. I would urge you all, if you have any questions about our credibility, to please go to studentloanjustice.medium.com, Google us, and look at all the research that we've done over the years. Look at all the claims that we've made. 100% of them have turned out to be absolutely true. And quite frankly, most of the claims that we've made in the past have turned out to be not only true, but have turned out to be very conservative. In other words, bad things that we predicted, not only did they happen, they turned out to be far worse than we were initially predicting. So Michael Cheney says, they do not want to help us. They want us in debtor's prison. Yeah. Yep. There's some bad people out there, guys. Make no mistake. Our opposition, we control this lending system. At the final analysis, we are the people who hold the gold. And quite frankly, in my humble opinion, nobody should ever, ever, ever pay another dime into this very dangerous, unconstitutional, nationally threatening loan scam. And in my humble opinion, you need to do whatever it takes to bulletproof yourself and stop feeding this beast. And by the way, anybody who does pay on their loans in the future come January 1st, it's not only, in my humble opinion, a little unwise, I think it's very unpatriotic. Because if they can do to other loans what they did to student loans, and if we let them, then they will, this could wreck the country. John Adams said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. And as dramatic as it may sound, we are looking down the barrel of that gun right now, ladies and gentlemen, despite all the good news, supposedly, that we heard here tonight. We are not champions, guys, not yet. There is no golden wreath to be put on heads or whatever that Romans. There are no trophies to be doled out. There are no champagne bottles that should be uncorked right now. This is not where we're at. And don't be snowed. Don't allow yourself to be distracted into this fake halcyonic haze of, oh, Biden's saying cancel loans, everything's going to be fine. So now I can turn off my brain, quit thinking about my ridiculous student loans, and somebody else is going to take care of it. That's never happened. It will never happen. It's not going to happen for you. We need to fight. So guys, I've gone on probably way longer than I was planning on here tonight. But this is the time to fight, guys. This is not the time to sit back and relax. The bad guys, our opposition, and they are out there fighting feverishly right now. They want you doing nothing. They want you sitting there waiting, watching, worrying, or maybe even not worrying, with your tail in between your legs, assuming that somebody else is going to pull your weight for you, fight your fight for you. It's not going to happen. Hey, Brenda Cormier said canceling all student loan debt would be the best boost for the economy. Great point, Brenda. You know, I have to make one other additional point. Canceling student loans will absolutely boost the economy. It will absolutely not cause inflation. You know what causes prices to be high? For example, doctors, lawyers, other highly paid professionals that have $250,000 student loan nooses around their necks. Can you imagine if all the doctors out there that didn't have to repay $300,000, if they could go and work for if they could work for a $100,000 salary instead of a $250,000 salary because they didn't have student loans to pay? You know how dramatically the price of healthcare would drop? Think about that. In many ways, canceling student loans may very well decrease inflation for those reasons. Think about that. Nobody talks about that, but it is a very fair and fine argument. Okay, guys, I'm sorry that I missed the majority of your comments. But I hope you're pleased with the rhetoric. I hope you're very not pleased with the nonsense, the ambiguity, etc. I hope you're going to finally, and to everybody out there who's doing the hard work with us, and everybody who I mentioned tonight, Melissa, Derek, everybody else, we salute you. We've come this far. We should be thrilled. To everybody else who has never helped, this is your time to join us, and let's get this done. Let's get S2598 done by October, in the next month. We can do it. We are the largest group of student loan borrowers in the country. We have over 1 million members. If even 10% of our members were doing our daily actions, for example, which you can see right there, we would be done. We would definitely get this done within a month. We'd have bankruptcy back certainly by the end of the year. And it would be a very direct path between that and getting loans actually canceled. So please remember that, ladies and gentlemen. The very last thing I'll say is, guys, we are people. We're nothing more than people. We can't do what we do without very modest donations from normal people like you. Compared to the tens of millions a year that are spent against us, we spend almost nothing. Like, we have no staff. We have almost no budget, but to keep the lights on and the rent for this shitty little apartment paid, keep me fed, and internet and phone, not much, a couple few $1,000s a month. We can do it on very little. We cannot do it on nothing. So if you are pleased with what you saw here today, at least the rhetoric, just please donate so I don't have to keep harping on it. It's really hard for us to raise money, guys. So please do your part. We don't need much, but we can't do it on nothing. So, all right, guys, we're going to see what the rest of this week brings. As I said, we're going to be blowing up in the media all week. We're going to be doing some national news on Saturday. This is it, guys. This is the final push. So good luck. Do our daily actions. Godspeed to you on that. I'll see you on Friday. Ed will see you tomorrow, our fearless co-leader, Ed. God bless everyone.